Congressman Kurt Schrader, a veterinarian by trade, the 13-year incumbent is running for re-election in Oregon's newly redrawn 5th Congressional District. It includes Clackamas County, Marion County excluding Salem, and much of Central Oregon's coastal communities. Schrader has a strong challenger for the Democratic nomination. Jamie McLeod-Skinner of Central Oregon is more liberal, while Kurt Schrader is considered more moderate. Congressman Kurt Schrader, welcome to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Oh, thanks so much, Ken. Thanks for having me here.
Well, you know, some observers see this as kind of a struggle between the moderates and the progressives in the Democratic Party. Do you see this the same way?
Oh, maybe to a degree. I'd like to think the Democratic Party is a big tent party. We have differences of opinion, and we try and settle that amongst ourselves. I respect the folks that represent their districts in New York, California, or Florida. But the 5th Congressional District, very different district, not affiliated is the largest party. 40% of the folks identify now as non-affiliated, 30+% as Democrat, and slightly under 30 as Republican. So I've got to play center field.
You live in a farming community in Canby and Clackamas County, yet Clackamas County party officials joined Marion, Deschutes, and Linn counties to endorse your opponent, McLeod-Skinner. Now, how disappointing was that, and what does that say to you about the electorate in your district?
People endorse a lot of different people for different reasons. I'm a mainstream Democrat, as you pointed out, and I think the mainstream folks will identify with me in the primary and general elections. It's an opportunity in a very difficult district for folks to, frankly, reaffirm a thoughtful Democrat, someone that's socially progressive, but, can balance a checkbook and is fiscally responsible. And I think that's exactly been what I've been successful at portraying over the last 10 years. And I think be reelected because of that.
How did the redistricting change things in the 5th District?
Pretty significantly. The new district that Oregon acquired as a result of increasing population was cut largely out of my district. I lost 50% of my district. Still have 50%. Actually, in Southwest Portland, I now have, again, I had that back when I first got elected to Congress 12 years ago. So more than 50% of the district is familiar, but we picked up more of Portland, Linn County, and a big chunk of northern Deschutes County, including Bend. So it's flipped from the coast over to the mountains.
Does it change the way that you campaign or relate to your electorate?
To a certain extent, the district got more difficult overall, but I think a lot of the same issues pervade the entire district. I've been impressed over in Deschutes County and Bend and Redmond in particular that they're facing a lot of the same affordable housing issues we have in the Valley. Working men and women in their own town can't afford to live there. They have the homeless issues that we see in the Valley also. And wildfire is a huge concern for folks. We've been looking at the reports where drought conditions again for Central and Eastern Oregon in particular. So a lot of familiarity. I feel comfortable representing them, just like I did the Willamette Valley.
Let's talk a little bit about your record. You criticized the second impeachment of then President Donald Trump, initially voted against President Biden's American Rescue Plan before you voted for it, and then you opposed the $15 minimum wage. How do you square all that against the Biden Democrat priorities, and where does that put you in terms of the party nationally?
Sure. I was never against impeaching Donald Trump again. I actually did vote to impeach him twice. I did think there was a better plan going forward, which would have been using the 14th Amendment, which requires just a simple majority to forbid somebody from ever holding public office again. That we could have achieved. That was my concern. It got a little misreported, and I used some terrible terminology, to be honest with you, going forward. I'm in favor of raising the wage to at least $15. I have a bill that I sponsored that does just that. Matter of fact, it mirrors what we did here in Oregon. I thought Oregon had a very smart approach that differentiated slightly between wages and costs of living in rural Oregon, suburban Oregon, and urban Oregon. So strongly favor that. And frankly, as we're seeing in the marketplace as a result of the supply chain problems due to COVID, that $15 isn't going to cut it even in this day and age.
So it's your contention that we should raise the wage even more?
Yeah, I think it's going to have to go up. The market's pushing it. Folks earning more than that at McDonald's. I talk to folks in franchise industry, and they're paying anywhere from $17 to $20 an hour. And I think we're seeing that certainly in the farming community. We've been long past $15 as a minimum wage.
The war in Ukraine, it has the U.S. considering what its role should be in combating Russian aggression. What do you think the U.S. and specifically Congress can and should do?
Well, I think we've been stepping up, and I give the current administration high marks for coordinating our allied response. Under the previous president, my gosh, I'd be fearful that we would even get engaged. And with his cozy relationship with Putin, would have allowed, frankly, the Russian aggression to go unchecked. The president and Congress has worked closely with our allies around the world, and particularly in Europe, to go after Putin. The economic sanctions will take their toll, maybe not immediately, but over time. We will bring Putin and his country to its knees if they continue this unchecked aggression in Ukraine. Congress and the president have stepped up with a huge package, $13.6 billion before I left to come back home. Half of it for defensive purposes, making sure that our allies in the region and the Ukrainian people in particular have the weapons to defend themselves against this unprovoked Russian aggression. And of course, humanitarian aid. And I was very pleased to see the president yesterday talk about bringing 100,000 refugees from Ukraine to this country. I've met with the Ukrainian community here, and they're very concerned about their folks in Ukraine getting food, getting cars to get gas, medical supplies, all those things, and making sure that they can actually get a job when they come to this country as a refugee to support themselves. We certainly need the workers. Unemployment's at a record low, and yet we still need workers. So I give high marks. We're stopping the oil importations from Russia. We've taken some pretty strong actions, and we're working very closely with our allies. That's the way to make it effective. Get the whole world against Russia.
One of your stated campaign priorities is lowering prescription drug costs. How do you plan to do that?
Well, by passing a bill that actually can pass the Senate. We've had a lot of attempts over the last several years to lower prescription drug costs, make sure that Medicare has the ability to negotiate drug prices, but it's always gotten hung up on the Senate side. I voted for a couple of bills that we had tried. So I spent the last 2 years, Ken, working with a friend of mine, fellow colleague from California, and came up with what we think is a sweet spot. It doesn't stifle innovation like the previous bill was accused of by the Congressional Budget Office and some 50 patient groups are very worried about that. Our bill doesn't do that, but it still allows us to negotiate drug prices for Medicare. It actually reduces out-of-pocket costs to seniors to $2,000 a year. That's life-changing for a lot of seniors. No longer do they have to choose between medicine and food. And we cap insulin prices at $35 a month. And on top of that, we have the drug companies, they can't increase their prices of drugs already in the marketplace more than the price of inflation. It could be life-changing, game-changing. I've already worked through this with the Senate. This bill can pass.
We've got about a minute left, Congressman, and I know you're a former member of the House Small Business Committee. Is Congress doing enough to support small businesses, especially those in Oregon?
I think so. There's more we could do. I'm very concerned about the hospitality industry. A lot of restaurateurs and hotel owners were cut off of funded money that we had set aside for their particular revitalization. We're trying to see if we can't restart that. I'm working with fellow colleagues here in the Oregon delegation to get that bill up. But with the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, we're able to save a lot of small businesses. Almost every small business I've talked to thanks us for the work we did there. Keeping families employed so they put the food on the table. It's a win-win.
Congressman Kurt Schrader, thanks for joining me on Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you, Ken.